What you're going to notice about a lot of these successful app businesses is they're based on subscription models. So for example, Calm here charges $89.99 per year after you sign up for the 7-day free trial. So this is one of the most lucrative business models, and it's the reason that SaaS businesses have been able to become billion-dollar companies. It's because you're getting the recurring business. It's very difficult to build a sustainable business when you're paying to acquire a customer through things like advertising, and then that customer just buys one thing and never comes back to you. If you get customers into a subscription, then there's a high probability that you actually have a sustainable business. But there are a few key considerations when we look at the math that you need to factor in before you start throwing money at ads and things like that. And the most solid predictor of your success as a subscription business in the app world is going to be lifetime value over CAC. So Boston Consulting Group, BCG, one of the most prestigious management consultancies. They consult with some of the largest, most successful businesses in the world. And what they tell us is that this ratio of lifetime value over customer acquisition cost is the biggest predictor of your success. Now, the trouble when you're first starting out with a new app is you don't know what the lifetime value is. So what you may need to do is work with an analytics team, if you have one, to predict it. Or you can make some guesses as to how long you think a customer will stick with you at a given price point per month or per year. Or what you could do is just kind of focus on the CAC as a KPI until you have a better sense of what the lifetime value is of those customers. Now, I've just put together a little spreadsheet to demonstrate how you can set a CAC or customer acquisition cost target. And there are two general rules that we would follow to figure out what an optimal CAC is, or how much you'd be willing to pay to acquire a customer. So one is based on a 12-month payback. So basically what you want to do is you want to pay to acquire a customer, and with the idea being that that customer will be profitable within 12 months, within the first year. So an example here that I have is that the fully loaded customer acquisition cost is $100. So that means if we pay $100 to acquire a customer today, and they spend, say, $10 a month, then they'll be profitable within 12 months. Or if they spend enough to generate $100 in the first year, then we would say that's a success. If they take 13, 14 months to pay back what we paid to acquire them, then it's not a good target. We're not being very efficient with our marketing spend. Now, the thing with customer acquisition cost is there are different ways to measure it, but what you should be including in customer acquisition cost is things like labor. Like how much are you paying your marketing team, your sales team, if you have a sales team. So often when people calculate customer acquisition costs, what they're really doing is they're just calculating the advertising CAC, so how much they spent on advertising. And a benchmark that I'm using here is I'm saying that out of all the customer acquisition costs, including marketing labor, your advertising cost might actually only be 50% of it. So if you're using just the advertising expenditures, then your CAC actually needs to be much lower, and say $50. So you can afford to spend $50 in advertising to acquire a customer for $100 and to be profitable within something similar to what we saw with Calm. So with Calm, customers are spending about $100 a year. If you want to break that up per month, that's fine. Then that means we can spend about $50 in advertising to acquire them. And now there's another way that we can set the benchmark, and that's not by using the 12-month payback goal, but it's by saying that we're willing to pay 1/3 of the LTV to acquire the customer. So I'm just making an assumption here that the lifetime value of a customer is $250. So that means the typical customer maybe sticks around for, say, 2.5 years, 3 years, something like that. So average LTV of $250. That means that our CAC, being 1/3 of that, would be $83.33. So we can afford to spend $83.33 to acquire the customer. But that includes labor and whatnot. So that means that to acquire a customer, a paying customer through advertising, we can afford to spend about $42 in advertising. So you see, it can actually be very, very difficult to acquire customers cost effectively. That's why you need to get more creative, especially when you're dealing with very low priced products, because it isn't efficient to acquire customers one by one.